The story opens in the labyrinth of the abyss, where three girls are shaking with fear. They know how dangerous the place is, and how many adventurers have died there, so they worry they might not make it out alive. However, the young man with them stays calm and confident. He reassures them that everything will be fine, believing his camping skill will help them survive and safely get through the deadly maze. To understand how he ends up in this perilous situation, the story flashes back to his past life. Working late into the night at a soul-crushing corporate job, he is completely exhausted. Realizing it is already midnight, he decides he has had enough and leaves for home, desperately wishing for his miserable routine to end. While walking down the street, he spots a stray cat and finds it quite cute. Suddenly, he notices the animal is sitting right in the middle of the road with a speeding bus approaching. Panic sets in as he realizes the imminent danger. He jumps onto the road and kicks the cat out of danger. However, in the process, he gets hit by the oncoming vehicle himself. Lying broken on the road, he wonders if his life is truly over at only 30 years old. Despite the pain, a grim sense of relief washes over him as he realizes he will finally be free from his grueling job. Reflecting on his life, he bitterly remembers how his parents abandoned him and left him with massive debt. He also recalls how a corrupt company exploited him, leaving him single and miserable. Suddenly, amidst the fading darkness, he begins hearing faint muttering. Confused and wondering if he has somehow survived the crash, he opens his eyes to the sight of a massive, glowing chandelier. Assuming he must be recovering in a hospital bed, he is shocked when a maid comes into view. She joyfully announces the successful birth of the Wishtal family's firstborn child. Bewildered by the mention of a noble bloodline, he listens as the maid turns to a man addressed as Lord Allen, asking if he has decided on a name. Allen agrees, officially naming the child Inoa Wishtal. Looking at his small hands, Inoa realizes he has successfully been reborn as an infant into a noble family. Years pass, and Inoa is now an 8-year-old boy. Rolling around on his bed, he feels intensely bored. He appreciates his reincarnation into this luxurious mansion, acknowledging that having 3 guaranteed meals a day and frequent naps is wonderful. However, he finds it incredibly frustrating that he is not allowed outside. Imagining all the incredible things waiting in this new world, he decides that today is the day he will finally sneak out. Just as he makes up his mind, a maid named Camilla enters the room. Startled, he stammers and tries to play it off, but she quickly catches on. She scolds him for constantly trying to sneak away whenever she looks away, but she ultimately agrees to take him for a supervised walk. Although slightly disappointed by the restriction, he happily accompanies her outside. In the courtyard, they observe the house warriors training with swords, spears, and heavy armor. Fascinated, he feels as though he is watching a live-action movie. Suddenly, he spots a man who looks like a wizard, muttering quietly to himself. Camilla explains that the man is performing a chant to prepare a magic spell. Excited, he listens to the wizard, but his enthusiasm quickly fades into boredom as the chanting drags on for 10 whole minutes. When he asks if the man is simply practicing, Camilla clarifies that he is actually a first-class mage and the pride of House Wishtal. She explains that the more powerful a spell is, the longer its required chant will be. Hearing this, he realizes that magic in this reality requires immense patience and cannot simply be fired off rapidly like in manga or video games. The mage extends his hand and casts a great fireball, sending a massive blast of flames crashing into a huge wall. Inoa watches the spectacular display in absolute amazement. Soon after, Camilla suggests they head back inside. As they walk down the corridor, he casts a lingering look at the warriors and asks if he should be learning swordsmanship or magic. Camilla dismisses the idea, stating it is still far too early for him to begin such intense training. He accepts this, secretly relieved since he has no real desire to train anyway. When she suggests he entertain himself in his room with building blocks or juggling balls, he complains that he is tired of those toys, internally noting that he is a 30-year-old man trapped in a child's body. Suddenly, Camilla leans in uncomfortably close. Captivated by his adorable appearance, she teases him, overwhelmingly doting on him and jokingly threatening to eat him up. Startled by her intense affection, he frantically sprints back to his room, loudly declaring a sudden, desperate urge to play with his blocks. Left behind in the hallway, she chuckles at his predictable reaction. Safely behind closed doors, he vows to be more careful around her, though he admits he somewhat understands her reaction. Looking in a mirror, he marvels at his own perfect features, embarrassingly catching himself blushing at his own reflection. Later that evening, it is time for dinner. The household chef calls Lord Allen and Inoa to a dining table, overflowing with an extravagant feast. Inoa excitedly praises the delicious-looking spread, and the chef proudly notes that he put extra effort into the meal today. During the meal, Inoa marvels at how incredibly delicious the food is. He notices a young girl sitting across from him, named Tresia, who belongs to a branch family of House Wishtal. Because of her lesser status, the servants treat her coldly, serving her a significantly lower quality meal. Unable to stand watching her be mistreated, he quietly slides some of his own food to her under the table, whispering that he cannot finish it all anyway. She looks down and quietly thanks him, biting her lip as if holding back tears. He smiles sympathetically, hoping that one day they can truly get along, though he knows her difficult circumstances make her hesitant to open her heart. Their interaction is interrupted when Alan instructs Inoa to visit his study after dinner to learn about skills. Complying with the order, Inoa heads to the room. Taking a seat, he internally notes the cold atmosphere, realizing he feels absolutely no fatherly love from Alan. Alan quizzes him on what determines a person's worth. When he confidently guesses that it is a person's heart, Alan bluntly rejects the answer, leaving Inoa feeling deeply embarrassed. Alan explains that true worth is determined by the specific skill granted during the evaluation ritual at age 12. He details that skills are ranked on a 6-level scale from A to F, emphasizing that House Wishtal highly values combat abilities. Applying heavy pressure, Alan demands that Inoa awaken a powerful combat skill to uphold the family's prestige. Years pass, and the highly anticipated day of Inoa's skill evaluation finally arrives. Standing in the center of a crowded church, he feels incredibly nervous under the piercing gaze of over 100 extended family members. Alan confidently assures the crowd that Inoa will manifest an A-rank combat skill, though Inoa secretly feels that a violent ability does not suit his pacifist nature. The presiding priest extends his hand to begin the ritual. A brilliant light envelops Inoa, and an announcement reveals his granted ability, a skill named camping at an unprecedented SS rank. Hearing this, he is thrilled. He happily imagines himself relaxing by a forest bonfire with a cup of coffee, deciding it is actually the perfect skill for him. To his shock, Alan erupts in furious outrage, completely misinterpreting the result. Unfamiliar with modern video game tropes, the people of this world do not realize that an SS rank is superior to an A rank. The priest stammers in confusion over the unheard-of classification, but Alan furiously declares Inoa utterly useless. Seeing Alan lose his composure and violently tear at his own hair, Inoa realizes this is Alan's true, cruel nature. Alan angrily shouts that having 2 S letters must mean the lowest rank, calling Inoa a disgrace to House Wishtal. As others try to calm him down, the priest awkwardly continues the ceremony, reminding everyone that one more person still needs to be evaluated. After calming down, Alan calls Tresia forward. As she steps up, Inoa feels hopeful, wishing she gains a strong combat skill so she can escape her poor treatment and improve her status. The ritual begins and a bright light appears. Tresia awakens an A-rank magic swordsman skill, the same legendary power once held by a hero. Thrilled for her success, he rushes forward to offer his congratulations. However, she responds with a wicked laugh. Dropping her innocent act, she cruelly claims that his past kindness was merely a way for him to look down on her, declaring that their positions are now reversed. He is completely blindsided, realizing too late that she had harbored deep resentment toward him all along. Alan violently shoves him aside, praising Tresia as the only one truly worthy of inheriting House Wishtal. When she asks what will be done with Inoa, Alan coldly disowns him, exiling him to the sacred peak of Mount Erasmus. Shocked, Inoa looks around at the silent crowd, realizing his corrupt family only ever valued him for his potential talent. Disgusted by their hypocrisy and their cowardly method of sending him away to die without dirtying their own hands, he gladly accepts the exile, feeling the household is entirely worthless anyway. Abandoned alone on the sacred mountain, he refuses to just lay down and die. Deciding to test his SS rank camping skill, he mentally calls out for basic supplies. To his absolute amazement, a premium tent, a sturdy chair, a cooking table, shining fresh vegetables, and top-quality meat instantly materialize before him. Overjoyed, he sits down and decides to cook a meal. He piles up some firewood and casually wills his skill to ignite a flame. However, instead of a small spark, a massive magical spell circle manifests. A critical blast of fire explodes outward, instantly escalating into a raging inferno that engulfs the surrounding grass and threatens to burn down the entire forest. Panicking over the sudden disaster, he frantically uses his skill to draw water. Another colossal spell circle forms high in the sky, summoning an impossibly large bucket that dumps a massive tidal wave over the area. The flood successfully extinguishes the blaze but completely drenches the entire landscape. He wakes up, coughing out water, and realizes that his seemingly harmless skill is actually extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, from a cliff above, a tiger-like beast watches the chaos. Sensing the immense power, it becomes intrigued and mutters to itself. Continuing his camping experiment, Inoa summons an outdoor fan. Initially disappointed by its size, he wonders if it will be effective at drying him off. However, upon turning it on, it blasts an incredibly powerful gust of wind that thoroughly dries his hair and clothes. Deciding to leave the flooded area, he calls forth a backpack and commands his equipment to pack itself. The items magically store themselves away, and he is amazed by how weightless the bag feels on his shoulders. Suddenly, a strange sensation alerts him to a presence behind him. Turning around, he is terrified to find the tiger approaching. Despite his fear, he remains frozen, utterly mesmerized by her pure white fur and striking turquoise eyes. His panic spikes when he hears a deep growl echoing from her stomach, fearing he is about to be eaten. As she draws closer, with strange smoke swirling around her paws, she shockingly speaks, praising Inoa for being a good person and questioning why he didn't attack. Stunned that she can talk, Inoa, who harbors a deep love for felines, blurts out that he had no intention of hurting something so beautiful, rambling affectionately about her fluffy fur and elegant eyes. She tells him to calm down, mildly amused by his lack of respect for a sacred beast, but notes that it is fitting for the savior of the cat god to be so affectionate. Confused, Inoa listens as the tiger explains that the stray cat he sacrificed his life to save in his previous world was actually a deity. She reveals she has come to return the favor. Noticing her stomach growling again, the tiger darkly jokes that while humans usually do not look appetizing, he looks quite delicious. Terrified by the grim humor, he is quickly reassured that she would never actually eat him. Eager to please her, he offers to cook a meal instead, suggesting they relocate to a drier area. She agrees, and the two set off together to find a better campsite. The tiger turns around and offers him a ride on her back. Amazed, he climbs aboard, marveling at her incredibly soft, pure white fur. The warmth of the coat completely wraps around him, bringing a deep sense of calm to his heart. She tells him to hold on tight before suddenly accelerating into a blindingly fast sprint. He can barely keep his grip and desperately shouts at the tiger to slow down. Misunderstanding the frantic plea, she claims she is already running slowly and accelerates even more, quickly carrying them out of the forest in a blur of speed. Emerging from the trees, his eyes widen at the breathtaking landscape. She decides this is a perfect spot to eat and volunteers to quickly forage for some delicious mountain ingredients. Before he can even explain that he can summon food with his skill, the tiger vanishes in a flash. Left alone, Inoa ponders what to cook, debating between typical camp food like curry, grilling his magically summoned steak, or preparing something more elaborate. The thought reminds him of his former family's chef, whose food was delicious but whose personality was utterly despicable. Meanwhile, back at the Wishtal estate, Tresia is already hard at work training. Observing her, the house warriors gossip about her newfound status as a magic swordsman. Their conversation shifts to Inoa, with the guards callously joking that he is likely already dead given the mountain's terrifying creatures. One warrior recalls that just last month, an entire soldier company was annihilated on that very mountain by a fearsome monster known as the cockatrice. Little do the guards know, Inoa is currently facing that exact monster. He barely dodges a furious attack from the terrifying giant bird. Wondering if the monster wants to eat him, he scrambles for cover. As the bird lunges again, he frantically uses his skill to summon a cutting board. The heavy wooden board materializes just in time, perfectly blocking the bird's strike. Hearing the creature cry out in pain from the impact, he marvels at his summoned item's incredible durability. Noticing the monster's stark resemblance to ordinary poultry, Inoa confidently decides he is going to cook and eat it instead. However, catching the bird proves difficult as it begins spitting a rapid barrage of fireballs from its beak. He desperately dodges the fiery projectiles and hides behind some thick bushes, realizing his child-sized body is far too weak to defeat the monster in close combat with just a knife or rope. He decides his only option is to use his camping skill to launch a ranged attack. Stepping out from behind the bushes, Inoa confidently taunts the giant bird, daring the clumsy creature to try and eat him. The monster grows furious and opens its beak to screech, falling right into his trap. He quickly equips a pair of sunglasses and summons a lantern, dialing it to its maximum intensity. Removing the cover, a blinding burst of light erupts toward the monster. Shielded by his dark lenses, he watches as the shrieking bird flails and covers its eyes, leaving it completely immobilized. Taking advantage of the opening, he summons a massive sandwich maker large enough to engulf the entire monster. He commands the heavy iron plates to slam shut, trapping the squawking bird inside. With the creature contained, he happily declares that it is time to cook. He summons a portable bonfire, adjusts the intensity, and ignites a steady flame beneath the giant iron press. Knowing the massive bird will take some time to roast thoroughly, he settles in to wait. Just then, the tiger returns, apologizing for the delay and presenting a pouch full of foraged goods. Opening it, Inoa finds a variety of wild mushrooms and mountain herbs. The intense, seaweed-like smell makes him question if they are actually edible, but she assures him they are so incredibly delicious that she once fainted from the taste. Though slightly skeptical, he reasons that strange ingredients are perfectly normal in another world and decides to trust her. The tiger then mentions that she originally wanted to bring back a delicious bird native to the mountain, but the creature was strangely missing from its nest. Guessing she means the monster with the red crest, Inoa laughs and points out that he is currently cooking that exact bird inside the iron press. The tiger is astounded, wondering how he managed to defeat such a dangerous monster, and he proudly credits his unique skill. While the meat sizzles, he decides to prepare a second dish using the forage mushrooms and herbs. Summoning another bonfire and a cooking pot, he boils water to create a flavorful broth. After removing the steeped herbs, he adds the chopped ingredients, along with proper measurements of sake, mirin, and soy sauce, covering the pot to let it simmer. 5 minutes later, the rich, mouth-watering aroma of the finished stew and the roasted meat fills the air, leaving the tiger begging to eat immediately. The tiger drools profusely, practically unable to contain her hunger as she eagerly anticipates the meal. Finally, Inoa removes the lid and announces that the food is ready. She marvels at the mouth-watering spread, which features the perfectly grilled cockatrice alongside the otherworldly mushroom and herb stew. Noting that the meat is currently unseasoned, he explains that he just needs to add some salt and pepper, asking her to wait just a moment longer while he portions out the servings. Unable to hold back, the tiger declares that to truly savor a feast of this caliber, she must consume the meal with her entire body and soul in her proper form. Confused by the cryptic statement, he questions what she means. Suddenly, a massive cloud of dust erupts around her. Shocked, he watches as the dust clears to reveal that the tiger has transformed into a beautiful human girl, sporting her new humanoid beast mode, leaving him completely speechless. Stretching her body, she notes that the wind on her skin feels much more pleasant in her human form. Still in shock, he asks why she previously spoke with such a deep, masculine tone if she is actually a woman. She casually replies that sounding masculine simply made her look cooler. Approaching him, she introduces herself as Tia Fresberg. Inoa gives her his name in return, and the two officially shake hands. Moving past the startling revelation, Inoa plates the food, slices the meat, and sets the table before they finally dig in. They are both immediately blown away by the incredible taste. Inoa notes that the meat tastes similar to chicken, with a rich flavor that only deepens the more he chews. The strange mushrooms and mountain herbs provide a wonderful aroma and a comforting warmth that spreads from the inside out. Delighted, Tia praises the meal, declaring that the ingredients taste 100 times better than usual and calling Inoa a culinary genius. As he humbly downplays the compliment, Inoa suddenly feels an immense pressure and a strange force flowing through his body. He quickly asks Tia if she also feels a sudden surge of energy. Flexing her muscles, she enthusiastically agrees, though she mistakenly attributes the vitality simply to the food being incredibly delicious. Suspecting there is more to it, Inoa uses his skill to analyze the meal and discovers that its statistical buffs are astronomically high. Wondering if all food in this world increases physical abilities, he realizes he has never felt a sensation like this before. Theorizing that the secret lies in his summoned gear, he grabs his knife and analyzes it. To his amazement, the knife itself possesses immense skill-enhancing effects. He concludes that eating food prepared with his unique camping utensils directly makes him stronger. His deep thoughts are abruptly interrupted by Tia, who demands another serving while snapping at him for spacing out. Snapping back to reality, Inoa apologizes and serves her more food. After they finish eating, Tia asks him to share the story of his past life and how he saved the deity. Inoa smiles and warns her that his previous life was incredibly boring, but Tia insists she wants to hear everything about him. She expresses her deep interest in him and suggests they sit in a nearby meadow to talk. They head over and sit together on the golden grass as the sun begins to set. Inoa shares the entire story of his past life, warning her that it is quite boring. When he finishes, he turns to find Tia sobbing. She cries over the cruelty of his fate, devastated that he was abandoned by his parents in his past life, only to be exiled by his new family when he desperately hoped to be loved. Inoa laughs it off, claiming that he is simply unnecessary. Shocked by his self-doubt, Tia pulls him into a tight embrace, tearfully insisting that someone as kind and amazing as him could never be unnecessary. Held warmly in her arms, Inoa realizes he has only been pretending to be strong while secretly accepting his tragic fate. Overwhelmed by the warmth of her affection, he loses control of his emotions and begins to cry as well. After a while, she lets go and stands up, boldly declaring that she wants to make a familiar contract with him. She asks him to become her master, explaining that she genuinely likes him but also worries about his carelessness. To prove her point, she suddenly appears behind him with a blade to his throat, demonstrating that his incredible skills are useless if he cannot react to an ambush in time. She insists that as his familiar, she will protect him. Inoa agrees, and she instructs him to extend his right hand. As he complies, Tia kneels before him. A brilliant light envelops them, and the contract is successfully completed, leaving a matching crescent moon emblem on her neck and his hand. Noting the new crests, she tells him that as her master, he no longer needs to use formal honorifics with her. Their peaceful moment is abruptly interrupted by the sound of someone screaming for help. Turning toward the noise, they spot a terrified young girl frantically running away from a massive pig-like monster. A terrified young girl frantically runs toward them. Acting on instinct, Inoa extends his hand and summons a burst of fire, instantly incinerating the massive pig-like monster chasing her. Looking at his hand, he notes that he has finally gotten the hang of adjusting his fire intensity. Smelling the roasted monster, Tia eagerly points out that she is already getting hungry. Tia checks on the exhausted arrival, who struggles to catch her breath. Looking into her savior's eyes, the stranger shockingly addresses Inoa by his name and drops her head in gratitude. Surprised, he tells her to raise her head and asks for her identity. She introduces herself as Romaria Cascade, revealing she is a slave recently expelled from the Wishtal family. Confused, Inoa mentions he does not remember having any slaves at his estate. Romaria explains it makes sense he wouldn't know her, as she spent most of her time locked away receiving brutal lashes from Alan. Hearing this, Inoa is deeply shocked to learn of his father's hidden cruelty. Wanting to help, Inoa gently picks Romaria up in his arms, promising to take her somewhere safe. She protests, warning that he will get dirty, but he easily brushes off the concern, casually mentioning he will just take a bath later. He insists that Romaria take a bath as well, a concept that completely baffles her. Tia enthusiastically chimes in, suggesting all three of them bathe together for fun, but Inoa quickly shuts down the chaotic idea. Tia then officially introduces herself to Romaria, who politely returns the greeting. Inoa asks Tia if there is a safe place nearby where Romaria can rest. Tia leads them to a spacious cave she usually uses to shelter from the rain. Noting that the cavern is far too dark, he uses his skill to summon multiple lanterns, bathing the entire area in warm light. He then turns to Romaria and offers to prepare some food for her. Used to horrific treatment, she frantically begs him to stop, insisting she can just eat the insects and weeds off the ground. Sympathizing with her, Inoa reveals that he was also expelled from the Wishtal family, shocking her completely. He laughs warmly, telling her that since they are both outcasts, she no longer needs to act formally with him. She timidly agrees. Tia pulls Romaria onto her lap, comforting her and promising that she is safe now and will soon eat something delicious. Watching them, Inoa amusingly notes that Tia acts just like a domesticated cat. Meanwhile, Romaria struggles to comprehend their kindness, wondering why they are doing so much for her. Deciding to cook something nutritious and easy to digest to help regain strength, Inoa repurposes the meat from the pig monster he just defeated. He quickly prepares a hearty pork soup and serves the steaming bowls, urging them to eat before it gets cold. Tia eagerly hypes up the meal, boasting about how exquisite his cooking is. Overwhelmed, Romaria asks again why they are treating her so kindly. Inoa simply replies that helping someone in trouble is the most normal thing in the world. Tia adds that while food tastes good alone, it tastes even better when shared with others. As the two chat cheerfully, Romaria internally reflects on this entirely unknown world of kindness. In the underground dungeon, no one ever came to help her, no matter how much she cried. She endured constant torture until Alan was satisfied, living off miserable rations and barely surviving, convinced that such a bleak existence was normal. After giving thanks for the meal, Romaria takes her first slurp of the soup. Tears instantly stream down her face as she tastes the most delicious food she has ever had, making her feel as though she has truly come back to life. Seeing her reaction, Tia eagerly digs into her own portion. Inoa expresses his joy at making a meal that brings her such happy tears. promising to make something even better next time. She laughs through her tears and agrees. In that heartwarming moment, the heavy slave cuff secured around her neck suddenly begins to crack. To prepare for the bath, Inoa summons a windscreen to act as a partition, designating one side for the women and the other for himself. Tia casually suggests they do not need to bathe separately, but Inoa absolutely insists on it. He then summons a magical barrel bath called a steam oasis. Seeing it, Romaria marvels at the sight, noting it has been a very long time since she last bathed. Tia invites Romaria to get in together. As they begin to undress, Inoa quickly stops them to hand out bathing supplies. He provides highly absorbent towels, top-quality pajamas featuring body temperature regulation, and casual clothes that automatically adjust to fit the wearer. Inoa feels a twinge of guilt summoning women's clothing, though he reassures himself he has no bad intentions. Tia excitedly praises the fluffiness of the towels, while Romaria bows deeply in gratitude. Inoa tells them to relax and take their time, which they happily agree to. Heading to his own side, Inoa reflects on how he never expected to enjoy a luxurious barrel bath in another world. He recalls his past life, where he had no free time and could only watch videos of such experiences. Before he can get into the water, he hears a loud shout from the women's side. Alarmed, he rushes over to check if they are okay. He finds Tia standing next to a completely transformed Romaria. Unable to recognize her clean, radiant appearance, Inoa confusedly asks who she is, causing Romaria to shriek again in embarrassment. Recognizing her voice, he realizes her identity and quickly apologizes for intruding. Romaria apologizes for getting carried away, but Inoa points out the incredible fact that all of her scars and wounds have completely disappeared. Tia explains that the injuries vanished the moment Romaria entered the water, guessing it must be a magical effect of the summoned bath. Inoa agrees with the theory. Overwhelmed with emotion, she bursts into tears, thanking him profusely and confessing she had given up all hope of ever healing. He comforts her, secretly reflecting that while his family deemed his camping skill useless, receiving it was actually the best thing that could have happened. Tia praises his amazing ability to create a healing bath and expresses her joy for Romaria. As the two happily chat, Inoa feels a bit out of place and politely excuses himself to return to his own bath. Relaxing in the hot water, he uses his analysis ability and confirms the bath provides a powerful skin regeneration buff. Feeling his fatigue completely fade away, he decides to enhance the spa experience. He uses his skill to instantly summon a barrel-shaped sauna, amazed that he can manifest something that would normally cost a fortune. He steps inside and immediately enjoys the intense heat and the pleasant scent of cypress wood. After finishing his sauna session, he decides a cold plunge is necessary. He summons a barrel filled with freezing water and carefully submerges himself. After spending some time in the cold bath, he climbs out and lies down on a nearby bench, experiencing a state of absolute, complete relaxation. He reflects on the chaotic day, from his skill evaluation and sudden exile to meeting Tia, fighting the cockatrice, and rescuing Romaria. Despite it all, he resolves to live calmly and freely, starting tomorrow. Later, they gather back inside the cave around the table. Inoa starts talking about their future plans, but stops when he notices how tired Romaria looks. Realizing everyone is exhausted, he suggests continuing the discussion in the morning, and they all agree. He then summons a large, cozy magic tent with soft, comfortable sleeping bags that have helpful effects. As they fall asleep, Inoa thinks about improving their base, while Tia happily wonders what tasty food he will make the next day. The next morning, Tia and Romaria sit at the table while Inoa prepares breakfast. Starving, Tia complains she has no energy left and asks if the food is ready yet. He promises it will only be a little longer. Suddenly, Tia senses grave danger and frantically screams for Inoa and Romaria to get behind her. They rush to her side, just as a massive, explosive blast annihilates the campsite. Tia shields them from the impact, checking to ensure they are unhurt. As the dust settles, the cause of the destruction reveals itself. An enormous dragon. The towering beast glares down and greets Tia, noting it has been a long time since it last saw the white tiger. The massive dragon, Erasmus, glares furiously at them. Inoa steps forward and asks what Erasmus wants. Erasmus counters the question, demanding to know why strangers are camping in his territory. Tia casually replies that she is simply resting and points out that the mountain does not belong to anyone. Meanwhile, Romaria and Inoa take cover behind a large stone. Observing the sheer size of the opponent, Inoa wonders if Tia can actually win. Using his analysis skill, he checks their stats. He notes that Tia holds an impressive AAA rank, while Erasmus is surprisingly only ranked C. Confused by the low grade for such an intimidating opponent, he assumes Tia should be able to win easily. However, Inoa is completely shocked when he suddenly notices that the true master controlling Erasmus is none other than Alan. Suddenly, Erasmus unleashes an immense, murderous intent. Sensing the hostility, Tia realizes that Inoa and Romaria are the actual targets. Erasmus confirms this, declaring that they are an offering. Terrified by the word, Romaria panics, fearing she is going to be eaten. Inoa quickly calms her down, promising he will never let that happen. Unfazed by the threat, Tia boldly states she will not hand them over so easily. Electricity begins coursing through her entire body, with dangerous currents traveling across the ground beneath her. Erasmus mocks her, calling her a bold stray cat for daring to challenge him. Tia dashes forward as Erasmus blasts a stream of fire from his mouth. She swiftly dodges the flames, prompting Erasmus to swing his massive tail at her. Romaria watches tensely, but Inoa reassures her that Tia will be fine. Proving him right, Tia leaps high into the sky, effortlessly clearing the range of the tail sweep. Watching her aerial acrobatics, Inoa marvels at the explosive power of her legs. Surprised by his miss, Erasmus declares that she will not be able to dodge his next attack in mid-air, threatening to reduce her to ashes. Reaching the peak of her jump, Tia shoots herself directly toward Erasmus. Erasmus is caught off guard, wondering how she managed to propel herself and accelerate using only the air. Regaining his composure, Erasmus fiercely flaps his wings, forcing Tia to alter her trajectory. Mocking her attempt to win an aerial battle, Erasmus brings his heavy claws down on her. Tia catches his foot, holding it back with all her strength as he threatens to crush her. Watching from below, Inoa finds the struggle strange. Knowing her rank is significantly higher, he wonders why she is being so easily overwhelmed. Answering his unspoken question, Tia loudly complains that she is too hungry to use her full strength. Erasmus is baffled by the ridiculous excuse, while Inoa sighs in realization, finding the hunger complaint completely typical of her. Tia confidently shouts that if she had just eaten breakfast, she would take Erasmus down in a single blow. Enraged by the disrespect, Erasmus asks how she dares make fun of him and declares that their game is over. Tia laughs, taunting him for failing to win even while she is starving. Erasmus retorts that he has only been using one paw so far. Extending his other arm, he strikes at Tia with his full, unbridled force. The devastating impact shakes the entire earth. Flying above the dust cloud, Erasmus laughs triumphantly, wondering aloud if he used too much strength. His celebration is cut short when Tia sarcastically apologizes for making him think he had won. Shocked, Erasmus demands to know how she survived. The crescent moon symbol on Tia glows as a fully completed circle. She proudly credits her survival to the powerful bond between her and Inoa. The dust clears to reveal Tia safely carrying Inoa tucked securely under her arm, though he awkwardly asks her to put him down. Erasmus angrily questions the power of the bond. Realizing Tia made a contract of submission with a human, she happily confirms this, claiming that being raised by a human is the best, though Inoa awkwardly asks her to stop phrasing it that way. Tia explains that a submission contract stops a servant from harming their master and allows the master to summon them by name from anywhere. Inoa then asks Erasmus if he made a similar contract with Alan. Surprised, he admits that he did. In exchange for control over the mountain's resources, he agreed to consume the useless exiled children of the Wishtal family. Hearing this, Inoa realizes the horrifying truth. He and Romaria were exiled so that Erasmus could eat them. Erasmus openly boasts about hunting human children, enjoying their fear and despair before slowly torturing and consuming them. Tia steps forward to protect her companions, but Inoa remains completely still, staring straight into Erasmus's eyes. Annoyed by the fearless glare, Erasmus loses his appetite. Deciding to simply burn the entire area along with his prey, he gathers a massive fireball in his mouth. Panic sets in as Tia considers running, but Inoa immediately devises a plan and calls Romaria to his side. Erasmus mocks their decision to huddle together and unleashes a devastating infernal flame, completely engulfing the campsite and blasting a massive crater into the earth. As the smoke clears, Erasmus laughs triumphantly, assuming he secured an easy victory. Suddenly, he senses movement. Beneath the fading smoke, Inoa, Tia, and Romaria emerge completely unharmed, having shielded themselves with a magically summoned fireproof blanket. Romaria praises the incredible defense, and Inoa admits he is pleasantly surprised by his own ability. Baffled by Inoa's unknown skill, Erasmus begins to panic. Meanwhile, Tia casually finishes eating a pork rib, as Inoa declares it is time to counterattack. He correctly deduces that Erasmus cannot use his fire breath rapidly and that the massive blast likely drained a significant amount of his power. Impressed by the brilliant tactical breakdown, a fully recovered Tia cracks her knuckles and challenges Erasmus. Furious and humiliated, Erasmus decides to retreat, swearing he will never forget this insult. He takes to the sky, prompting Inoa to realize he is escaping. Tia frustratedly notes that she cannot jump high enough to catch him. As he flies higher, mocking them as mere ants crawling on the ground, an arrow suddenly shoots up from the forest below, piercing a clean hole right through his wing. Inoa and Tia are shocked, knowing neither of them fired the projectile. Looking closely into the nearby trees, Inoa spots an elf wielding a bow. Tears stream down her face as she fiercely vows to make Erasmus pay for burning her village. Inoa wonders who the archer is and if she is helping them. Seeking revenge against Erasmus, the elf loads her bow and fires 3 more arrows directly into his wings. As Erasmus roars in pain mid-air, Inoa realizes they have managed to stall him, but he knows he needs a plan before she runs out of arrows. Romaria volunteers to act as bait to lure him down. Inoa immediately rejects the dangerous idea, but the word bait sparks a sudden inspiration. He summons a legendary fishing rod, deciding to literally catch Erasmus. Casting the line high into the sky, the hook perfectly wraps around Erasmus's arm. Erasmus scoffs, annoyed that he cannot break the magical fishing wire, but the massive weight is too much for Inoa to pull down alone. He yells for Tia to use the taut fishing line as a path. Realizing his brilliant plan, Tia gets into position. Romaria grabs onto Inoa from behind to help anchor him, and the elf rushes over to help pull as well. With the 3 of them holding the line steady on the ground, Tia sprints up the wire. Furious at being dragged down by mere humans, Erasmus curses his situation. Sprinting upward, Tia vows to make everyone's efforts count. She unleashes a sacred technique, extending her claws with the full might of her heavy thunder magic, and slashes directly into Erasmus. The devastating electrical strike burns Erasmus and sends him crashing violently into the ground. Standing triumphantly over the defeated Erasmus, Tia cheers that they did it, playfully calling Inoa her master. He laughs and celebrates the victory, though he secretly wishes she would drop the title. Inoa then realizes that Tia somehow managed to defeat Erasmus despite being exhausted and skipping breakfast. Checking her status log, he discovers the cause. The barrel sauna from the previous night granted a massive buff of plus 300 to all vital stats, a staggering increase compared to his usual buffs. Suddenly, the elf bursts into tears. Confused, Inoa wonders if he did something wrong, and Tia teases him for making another girl cry. He frantically apologizes, but the elf explains she is crying out of pure gratitude, stating she could never have defeated Erasmus without their help. Smiling, Inoa returns the thanks, noting that Erasmus would have escaped without her ranged attacks. Romaria abruptly remembers she hugged Inoa tightly during the struggle and hastily kneels to apologize, but he warmly dismisses her worries. He turns back to the elf to finally ask for her name, but he is suddenly interrupted by a loud growl echoing from Tia's stomach. Everyone stares at her as she awkwardly laughs, suggesting they save the introductions and details for later so they can finally eat. Inoa laughs and agrees. Pondering what they should make, he happily decides that today's lunch will be the dragon. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Alan violently interrogates a captured elf, demanding to know where the man's daughter is. Surrounded by other imprisoned elves, he beats the silent captive and then lashes him one final time with a heavy whip. Lighting a cigar, Alan complains that he ordered Erasmus to burn down the elven village, but their main target still managed to escape. Unbothered by the failure, he laughs coldly, confident that as long as he controls Erasmus, he can keep making money. He then begins planning which place to destroy next. Back at the cave, Tia eagerly watches pieces of Erasmus roasting over the fire. Noting how nicely the meat is cooking, Inoa tells her it still needs a little more time, though she impatiently claims she could just eat it raw. Romaria points out the delicious smell, and the new arrival enthusiastically agrees. Inoa takes the opportunity to ask for her name, and she introduces herself as Fairy. Romaria warmly holds Fairy's hand to greet her, but quickly notices that she is trembling. Fairy apologizes, explaining she is incredibly nervous because it is her very first time leaving her home. Tia correctly deduces that Fairy belongs to the Eastern Elven tribe from the village of Kiris. Fairy confirms this, sorrowfully revealing that Erasmus completely burned her village to the ground 3 days ago. The story flashes back 3 days to the devastating attack on Kiris. A village warrior named Fred rushes to Fairy, frantically warning her of the ambush and urging her to escape immediately through the back gate. Refusing to flee, Fairy readies her bow, insisting she wants to stay and fight alongside her people. Fred kneels and gently holds her hand, stressing that it is his absolute duty to prioritize her life above all else. He promises they will drive out the intruders and meet her at the forest lake later. Trusting Fred, she reluctantly escapes into the surrounding woods. While running, she hears a strange, terrifying sound. Reaching a high cliff, she looks back in horror to see her entire village engulfed in flames, with Erasmus flying menacingly overhead. Overwhelmed with panic, she desperately wants to run back to help, but realizes she would only be a burden in the fight. Forcing herself to stay calm, she decides she must trust her people and wait. As heavy rain begins to pour, she takes shelter under a large tree and breaks down in tears. Eventually, she wipes her eyes and steps out, fiercely vowing to exact vengeance on the enemies of her people. Returning to the present, Fairy explains that she tracked Erasmus down and stumbled upon their battle. Hearing this, Anoa grimly assumes that the villagers must all be dead, given how much even Tia struggled against Erasmus. However, Tia offers a glimmer of hope, suggesting the villagers might still be alive because their beautiful appearances make them highly valuable merchandise. Connecting the dots, he realizes that if Erasmus was acting under Alan's orders, the villagers were likely captured to be sold. Romaria confirms this theory, recalling that she saw beautiful people with pointy ears being transported when she was exiled to the mountain. Determined to stop his corrupt father, Anoa declares they will rescue the captives. Tia excitedly agrees, eager to finally give Alan what he deserves. Overwhelmed by their kindness, Fairy cries tears of gratitude. With their mission decided, Anoa insists they recover their strength with some food first. Everyone happily digs into the roasted meal, thoroughly enjoying the unprecedented flavors. Curious about the magical properties, Anoa checks his status and is amazed by the massive buffs. He notes that unlike previous meals where the boost applies to the entire dish, this high-tier meat grants a massive stat increase per individual skewer, providing an unmatched cost-to-benefit ratio. He realizes that if they are going to fight Alan, they need to eat as much as possible to grow strong enough for the battle. Suddenly, a system notification chimes, alerting him that his camping skill has leveled up. He stares in utter shock, completely astounded that his already overpowered skill possesses the ability to evolve. Tia notices Anoa looking distracted and asks what is wrong. He tells the girls to stay back and not move. Clapping both of his hands together, he notes that his new ability is taking a bit of time to manifest, guessing the delay is due to its complicated structure. He activates his level 2 camping skill and slams his hands onto the ground. A massive, fully built wooden cabin instantly materializes, leaving everyone completely amazed. Tia marvels that he just built a house, while Romaria praises his incredible power. Fairy excitedly notes that with such an ability, she could rebuild Caris in no time. Anoa admits he is just as surprised by the immense power of his level 2 skill. They step inside and are greeted by a highly luxurious interior. Anoa's eyes shine as he takes in the high ceiling, huge windows, and cozy wood stove, thrilled that every little detail he envisioned was perfectly included. Tia opens the refrigerator and is shocked by the freezing temperature inside. Assuming it is an ice attribute monster, Fairy warns everyone to step back. Anoa corrects the misunderstanding internally, recognizing the induction stove, refrigerator, and microwave as top-notch high-end appliances, though he wonders where they even get the electricity to function. Tia opens another door to reveal a massive bathroom. Her eyes sparkle with excitement, and she eagerly declares she wants to get in. Romaria appreciates the calming scent of fresh wood, and Fairy agrees that it feels very relaxing. Noting how sweaty they are from the earlier fight, Tia suggests they all bathe together. However, Anoa realizes that the cabin only produces normal tap water and has no idea how it magically generates functioning plumbing. Wanting to upgrade their experience, he uses his skills to summon a magic steam drum bath oasis, a block of wood, rope, and a chisel. He quickly carves a notch at the top of the wood, fits the small stream oasis inside, and fastens it with rope to create a flowing hot spring. To decorate it, he uses the chisel to carve the wood block into a tiger's face. Placing it on top of the drum, he worries it looks a bit strange, jokingly noting that it looks like it is puking transparent gel. Despite his skepticism, Romaria and Fairy quickly reassure him that the carved face is cute and looks genuinely happy. Tia happily leads the girls into the bathroom. After the three finish enjoying their hot bath, they step out and Tia apologizes for taking so long. Anoa dismisses the apology, simply warning her to watch her head. Romaria shyly apologizes for going first, while Fairy excitedly notes that the magical water made her damaged hair incredibly soft and silky. Pointing out that they were making a lot of noise, Anoa asks if anyone got hurt. Tia brushes it off, but Romaria explains that Tia suddenly transformed into her beast form, deeply shocking her and Fairy. She adds that Tia began imitating the wooden tiger spout and splashing hot water everywhere. Anoa scolds Tia for joking around dangerously in the bath, but she simply giggles, claiming it was worth it to see their funny expressions and teasingly suggesting he should have joined them. He flatly refuses. Tia then asks about the hot room and cold water tub he used the previous night. Realizing they do not know what a sauna is, Anoa tries to explain it as one of his hobbies. awkwardly comparing the intense temperature changes to fire and water torture. The girls completely misunderstand his horrible explanation. Romaria wonders in horror if his hobby involves self-torture. Spitting out his coffee in shock, Inoa frantically denies it. Tia concludes that he simply enjoys suffering, and Fairy earnestly offers to help him with his torturous desires if that is what he really wants. He loudly rejects the terrifying offer. While taking his own shower, Inoa sighs, realizing the girls now view him as a total weirdo. He resolves to make all three of them experience a proper sauna next time to successfully clear up the misunderstanding. Stepping out feeling thoroughly refreshed, he finds Tia waiting alone in the lounge. He asks where Fairy and Romaria went, and Tia explains that they fell asleep from exhaustion, so she carried them to bed. Inoa thanks her for taking care of them. Tia then turns serious, revealing that listening to Fairy's tragic story earlier triggered a buried memory. Her own mother was sealed away by the Demon King.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.